Welcome to the Fundraising Elevator, where we're all headed up. This podcast is a production of Elevate, an online learning platform for fundraising event professionals. We're coming to you today from the studios of the AV department. Please welcome our hosts, Kristen Steele and Samantha Swaim.
Hello, and welcome to the Fundraising Elevator, where we're all headed up. Today, we're very excited to talk about boards of directors, and we have the expert with us here to talk to us today. Before we kick off and get started, I wanted to share a little bit about some work that we've been doing recently around Gala 911, coming in to help you with your fundraising event, solve some of your challenges. We have a free webinar coming up on May 21st that we want to make sure you know about building your budgets, which is where we think a lot of the solutions live. So a little opportunity for you to think about how to redesign your event and how to build from the bottom up, building your budget. So May 21st, go to swaimstrategies.com and get signed up. It is free to join us. We hope you'll be there. We will have Ryan Goodwin of the Fundraising Event Company joining us. But let's talk about boards. Boards. We just had the Elevate conference, and at the Elevate conference, the number one question we got was about how do we get our board involved? So we are here with Sabrina Walker Hernandez to talk about board of directors. Welcome, Sabrina. We're glad you're with us.
I am so happy to be here. First of all, I love talking about boards. So y'all got to rein me in when it comes to the conversation. Keep me in line with the time and all of that, because I got some words to share and some nuggets to share.
Yes. Well, we want to do your official introduction. So Kristen, let's tell the audience all about Sabrina.
Let's do it. Sabrina Walker Hernandez, the Dream Team Architect, specializes in building elite leadership teams for corporate and nonprofit boards and CEOs, turning high-level potential into extraordinary performance. She launched her company, Building Better Boards, from a hospital bed after a cancer diagnosis. Obsessed with building powerful teams and deep connections, Sabrina helps mission-driven organizations grow their income and impact. Having trained over 10,000 leaders, she's known for transformational strategies in board engagement, funding systems, strategic alignment, and team retention. Today, Sabrina uses her expertise to help clients build the dream teams they need to achieve the results they deserve.
Yes.
And we are all going to benefit from today's nuggets. I'm super excited. So often we say the word board, and our fearless fundraisers out there kind of do a wistful sigh. I want to make sure, though, that people are clear on frame and role, because I think sometimes we're not all on the same page about that. So I thought we could start today with the big idea of having you frame and define for us what you see as the larger role of a nonprofit board of directors and its members.
Well, with that in mind, I'm going to go back to the introduction of the dream team. And so the board is your dream team.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And that's the way you have to see them. And so if you see them as your dream team, then you will invest in them, and it won't have you said the wisp. I see the eye roll. That's what I see.
Yes.
I was trying to lead with a little positivity there.
Well, I've done the eye roll myself.
Yeah, totally.
And so I serve on 5 boards, and I want to be clear. I serve on 5 boards. 2 of those I raise money for. 3 of them I give out money. And I've been in this nonprofit space for over 30 years. When I inherited my organization from someone who had held the CEO seat for 30 years, the board and the board meetings looked really much like the CEO getting up, sharing with the board report, and talking and doing the whole meeting. Leaving no space for the board to really embrace what their role is. Now, I loved her. She trained me very well, but sometimes we do what we think is supposed to be done. Because what I realized in this journey is that there's trainings out there, there's podcasts now, there's trainings, but it's very rare that I'm finding that people tap into that. So what is a board of directors is the question. 3 things is what the board is supposed to do. 1 is trusteeship. That's a fancy word for setting the vision and the strategic direction. Oversight, that's a fancy word for not telling me what to do as the executive director, but it's a fancy way of saying providing oversight towards budget, helping develop that budget, making sure the strategic plan comes alive, making sure we have policies and processes and procedure. And then third is ensuring necessary resources. Ensuring necessary resources means you have a good CEO, you hire your CEO, and you fundraise. Fundraise is the dirty F word for a lot of people, right?
Yep.
And when they do the eye roll or, the size, it usually is around fundraise.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because they see that is the only role for the board. That is not the only role. That is a major role. But here's the deal. If you don't see them as the partner or the dream team that they are, and you don't educate them, and you don't orientate them, and you don't give them what their experience should be, they're going to come in and they're going to create what they think, again, they're supposed to do as a board member. When you allow people to do that, that's when you're going to get the micromanagement. That's when you're going to get, well, we don't fundraise. That's not our role, because it's not natural. It is not natural. You have to set the stage for success. And oftentimes we don't do that. And these are people who said yes. They're good-hearted people. They said yes because they wanted to help the organization. They wanted to help a nonprofit. They're coming in with that good feeling. And so without being given direction, they are going to create what they think that they should be doing.
So how do you do that? How do you give them the coaching, the direction? The question that we get all the time, and this is the question we got to Elevate a lot. What should I be doing to get my board involved in fundraising? How do I motivate my board? How do I support my board? And that overarching question, I think, is speaking to your point, which is what is our job and our role and our path as either executive directors or development directors in both what expectations and what training, what resources? How do we get our board to lean in and invest in the fundraising?
Gotcha. So the first thing is you cannot be disingenuous. That's one. I find a lot of times that we can be disingenuous during the recruitment process. So here's the assumption.
Yes.
You have the recruitment process. And in that recruitment process, you are being genuine in what the requirements are. And that includes fundraising. I've had several people to say, we don't want to talk about fundraising during board recruitment because that's going to scare them off. And I'm like, but then they get to the first meeting and what do you talk about? You talk about fundraising. So you've set them up for failure. You've set yourself up for failure. And they're looking there like deer in the headlight. And you're wondering why they're not fundraising when no one told them. Right. And it's not just saying in the recruitment process that, you have to fundraise as a board member. It's getting really some specificity around that and sharing what the pathway is. So it's a very different conversation of, will you consider joining our board? They say, yes, you set up the interview and you get to the fundraising piece and you say, each of our board members are required to raise $5,000. They're going to be shocked. But when you follow that up with, this is the pathway, right? And the pathway looks like this. We ask each of our board members to give a personal gift of $500. So that leaves $4,500. We have an event, right? We have two signature events in the year. One of them is a gala. Let's say it's a gala. And so with that gala, we ask that you sell 2 tables. Tables start out at $1,500. So right there, you're at $3,500. Don't quote me on the math.
You're doing good. You're doing good.
Okay. And then we have a golf tournament. At the golf tournament, we ask you get one team. The team is $1,500. I don't know where we're at. And then we go back to the gala and say, we also ask that you secure a live auction item and a silent auction item. And whatever those go for, you get the credit towards that. That's how you get to your $5,000. We don't talk about that in that type of detail when we're recruiting. We will just say, yeah, we ask our board members to help fundraise. We don't define a number.
Right.
We don't define a pathway.
Yep.
I love that.
It's very obscure.
It is. I mean, I've been recruited by boards where the conversation was never had about fundraising, and there was no onboarding process either, because oftentimes like a board member is coming in to an organization that may be new to them, but there's already a board in place.
Right.
You mentioned onboarding and training and investing in your superheroes. It hit a note for me because I was like, oh my God, that's why I hated that organization, because I never understood. I felt like I came in midstream and I was trying to catch up all the time.
And that's how you would feel without a great orientation. You will sit there for a year and not say anything because you don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
And on top of that, you want me to fundraise, but I don't even know what I'm fundraising for because you haven't onboarded me properly. And onboarding for me, the best onboarding. Now, granted, every organization is not going to be here, but this is where I'm trying to get you to go. So the best onboarding is done by other board members. It's not done by the CEO. It is the treasurer coming in and talking about the budget. It is the board chair coming in and talk about this is our culture of our organization. It is the RD committee chair coming in and talking about, well, here, remember we talked about the pathway. Here it is. Here's that calendar. You know, that's what a true best practice onboarding looks like.
Mm-hmm.
But in absence of that, even if it's the CEO sitting across from the person and doing an onboarding, right? Yeah, I still like a good old fashioned binder. I know they got software out there. I know they got I'm never going to go in that drive. I'm just going to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Give me a notebook. I'm going to flip through the notebook. I'm still that old school girl.
That was my onboarding. I got handed a Google Drive. I was like, here's your link. And I was like,
What? Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm not going in the link. I need a one-on-one human being. Give me the notebook. Take me to lunch. Let's go through it, some highlights, and then assign a board buddy, someone that's a veteran on the board.
Yep.
And then that'll be your point of contact after that meeting, because you're going to be like deer in headlights, not knowing what's going on. And you can call them and you let that board buddy know that after their first meeting, call them, check in on them, ask them, do they have any clarifying questions, get a feel from them. And I found that this works very much so. I'm actually a board buddy right now for someone on our board. He is an artist and he is sensitive about his. And so to sit in on a meeting, and he's flighty, great potential, very flighty though. So I have to make sure I was assigned his buddy, and I make sure that I rein him in. He will miss a couple of meetings. And so I got to call him and say, so you've missed a couple of meetings. What's going on? This is the calendar. How we doing? That's the role of the board buddy in absence of a really robust onboarding process. And even if you do have an onboarding process, you still may need to have board buddies for certain people, especially artists who may be a little, flighty. I'm stereotyping here. I've also had, a friend of mine, Angela, she's a board buddy for another board member we brought on for our organization. She travels a lot. And this is her first board that she's ever served on. So we make the assumption that she knows that she needs to attend meetings.
Yep.
But if you never served on a board before,
right, you might not
actually know that. And so that's a clear something we can all do. If you're listening to this, that's something you can easily implement.
I love that.
What I'm struck by is something you said earlier that I want to pull through as a thread here because I'm connecting some dots. Sort of in the absence of this, right? In the absence of knowing what's expected of me, how I'm going to get there, what sort of the paces of participation look like.
Right.
You said earlier, sort of that question mark, that ooh, I'm waiting for a gotcha, can lead to micromanagement.
Yes.
And I just want to pull that through as a sort of highlight with a highlighter for our friends listening. that they take a look at when they're experiencing that may actually be coming from a place of not knowing versus a place of I know better than you, which is often how it feels, right? That because they don't know and because they've been put in this quote unquote leadership position and they feel like they have to be doing something, they don't know what that is. It seems really easy for me to step in and tell you how to do your job as it looking like I'm doing something.
Right. Because they're good people. This is what I want to emphasize. They're good people who said yes to supporting your organization. Let's start there. And
that's an important starting point.
It's a great starting point. So if we know that, then we can understand their motivation, that they said yes in the absence of knowing what they are supposed to do and how to do it. They would create roles where they feel comfortable and execute those roles.
Yeah.
And if fundraising is not a place of comfort. We know that. I've been doing this for 30 years. I still get nervous walking in and doing fundraising.
Yeah.
So it's not natural. And so they're good people. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
Very clear. Good people. And then when you do talk about fundraising, it's giving the pathway, but not only giving the pathway, it's also the best release that I had when I sat in that CEO chair was finally understanding what is fundraising and how do I want my board to participate in that process. And so for me, it became, learning about fundraising. So this is what I learned, and I'm going to share it with the audience, is like 10% of fundraising is identifying. Another 10% is qualifying. So just, identify the people, but just because you know them don't mean that they're going to give to your organization.
Right.
They need to like your mission. They need to have the ability to give. And then 60% of fundraising is cultivation, is building the relationship.
Yeah.
And then 5% is asking for money. And then 15% is saying thank you. Most people hear fundraising and they immediately go to that 5%, which is asking for money.
Yes.
Right.
And that's where we're judging our board by.
Right.
That's what they fear. And that's what we're judging them by, is that 5%. So if we can adjust our thinking and their thinking too, and figure out where their strengths are as people serving on your board, and allow them to lean into that strength, then you're going to get a better result. So I had a board member, when we interviewed her, she was very clear. She said, I don't like fundraising, which is asking for money. I would never ask for money. I don't feel comfortable asking for money. She went into the whole litany. And so this was during the interview. And so we said, okay, what do you feel comfortable doing? And she says, I will open up my network I will introduce you to anyone in my circle. So because we had this thing of what fundraising is, we were like, oh, she's a door opener. That is what she will do. That's where she fits. She fits in that qualifying and that identifying role, that 20%, if you add those two together. And so Millie, she was a BSA in the bank, which is the back office compliance and all that. And you're like, well, who does she know? Well, she's keeping people out of jail. She's keeping the bank people out of jail. So she has very much influence over the bank owners and the bank presidents and all of that. So can you introduce us to this? Can you be our, lend your credibility to us, to the organization, for the people that you influence? And she very much bought into that role. And because she bought into that role, she would tell me, she would stop by the bank owner's office and she would say, this is what's happening at the organization. This is what they did this week, blah, blah. She would tell me where they ate breakfast, and I would try to go to breakfast there, like once a week or something like that, and just go over to say hi. The bank president became the chair of our capital campaign committee, and we raised like $12 million. Amazing. I credit that all to her, and she never asked for a dime, but she did her role of door opener very well. That's where she shined. And then when it came to events, she understood. She didn't like asking for money. She understood that. But she was my boots on the ground at the event. If we had to set up some tables, if we had to set up the auction, if we had to do any of that, she was right there, front and center. She was with me at midnight sometimes, typing up auction descriptions. That was what she did. She understood that. Then most of my board, because I have 21 board members, and most of them fell into that 60%, which was building relationships. And I was okay with that. Yeah. Because if you build the relationships and they are communicating the story of the organization and they're taking people, the top 6 ways to cultivate is face-to-face, right? They may be taking people out to lunch, or when they see them at the grocery store, or when they see them at the bar, whatever it is that face-to-face. They picking up the phone and calling them, checking in on them. They are ensuring that, they are following the organization on social media or signing up for the newsletter. They are extending invitations to them to do a tour or to volunteer at the organization or something like that. And they're asking for advice. And hosting like house parties. I found house parties to be like the key that unlocked everything for my board. They love throwing a good old house party and having those intimate gatherings. And so my board fell into that, a large percentage of them, which made it so much easier we would describe it like dating. And so we would say, okay, you need to take them on 5 dates. And these are the dates, face-to-face, phone call, get them on a newsletter, whatever that is, 5 dates. Now, once you take them on them 5 dates, you need to set me up. So then the next call is going to be like, I would love to come and talk to you about bringing in Sabrina to see how you can further support the organization. If they say yes, then you like 90% you're going to get a yes when you go in for the ask. Now, for the ask, you're nervous. I just need you to do small talk. And then when it comes time for me to ask, because I'm the CEO here and I get paid to do this, I need you to be quiet. Don't say a word. Right? After I say, will you consider an investment of $10,000 or whatever it is? Don't try to fill the silence. Do not do that, because I always told them, he who speaks first loses. Don't help me because you're nervous and you want to feel the silence. Don't do that. Let's wait. It's the magic of the silence. And then, get whatever it happens is okay. Whether it's a no, not this opportunity. No, because maybe you still need to learn a little bit more about me, or no, not until I talk to my spouse, whatever it is. And if they need more information, I'll make sure they get the information. If it's a yes, we're going to profusely thank them and we're going to leave. But whatever that is. And then the thank you, which is 15%. I had a team of board members who were really good at the thank you. That was their role in fundraising. They would, once that gift came in, they would make the call to say thank you. They would make sure at the end of every board meeting that we all signed those thank you cards. That was their role.
I love your breakdown, the percentages that you're giving, because I think, if you've ever studied any of the different theories of like donor-centered fundraising or community-centric fundraising, there is often a process, but not necessarily like how much of that process is not the ask. Could you give us that breakdown again of like the percentages?
Yes. So 10% is identifying.
Okay.
10% is qualifying.
Okay. So those are our networkers.
Those are your network, your door openers on your board. Those are the people who will open those doors and lend credibility. 60% is cultivation or building relationships. That's the biggest piece of the fundraising pie. Okay. And then 5% is asking. 5%. Then 15% is maintaining the relationship or stewardship, saying thank you. So if you add up the 60 plus the 15, that's 75% is relationships. Building them and maintaining them.
Well, what I love about that is it casts this really nice light on the things that are actually going to be sustainable for your organization moving forward. I think sometimes we get really myopic and focused on, well, Jim didn't bring in that $2,500 whatever,
Right.
Yet what Jim might be doing is laying the groundwork for next year's ask.
Yes.
Yeah.
Those 5 touches.
Yeah.
You gotta, and keeping track of those 5 touches. Look, I'm going to be the first to tell you, to my CEOs out there who's like, I don't know CRM system. I was one of those. Let me just say that right up front. I used Excel till the wheels rolled off because I didn't understand until I realized, oh, this is relationship building. I need to keep track of this. I need to keep, and so we got my board to focus on the relationship building. If you need a good system that keeps track of that. So, Sam, if you give to my organization, right, I need to be able to put in the system, what basic things like what you gave, but I also need to know if I'm dating you, I need to put in there what I'm discovering about you as I'm dating.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's
because
so
at the
critical.
end of the day, it is a relationship with the organization.
Yeah. Yeah.
What tends to happen is once Bob rolls off the board or Sabrina rolls off the board, she takes those relationships with her. Well, if you have a good CRM system, it's in the system.
Yep. As the donor on the other side of that, I've often seen and experienced that shift of this is an organization that clearly doesn't have a strong CRM tool because the board or the staff member left that I had a relationship with, I'm no longer considered a donor, right?
Yeah. You stop talking to them.
Right. Yes. And they're like,
you stop dating me. And that's just rude.
Right.
We were ghosted.
It's funny that you use the dating terminology because I recently had that experience where I said to someone, I want them to see me as a donor. And she was like, well, how do you as the donor inform them of that? And I was like, oh, interesting. And the fact of the matter was that there was a board member that was no longer there that I used to have a relationship with. And so rebuilding that relationship. Talk to me. You mentioned a little bit about creating that path. Mm-hmm. And I think that's interesting that you use creating the path because we often hear the term a give-get policy, right? A requirement within your, to raise $5,000, you can give it or get it. I once had a really wealthy philanthropist in our community say to me, you either give it, you get it, or you get off the board. So
I've heard that.
I'm curious about give-get policies, if you think they're helpful, or if you feel like there's a better way to create that path for folks.
That is a tricky question. And here's why. Because I am a true advocate of clarity.
Mm-hmm.
And so in being an advocate of clarity, I like people to know what the expectation is. And if the expectation is you give or get $5,000, then that's the expectation. But the conversation doesn't stop there. That's where the pathway comes in. But hold up, here's how you can get there. And oftentimes we don't talk about here's how we can get there. Here's the at minimum, this is what you can do. And this is what we require. Here's the pathway. But if you don't want to sell, your 2 tables for the event or get your golf team or get the auction and silent auction, then do it your way. But here's the expectation. So that's why I like it, because I am a person of, like I said, I can't remember if it was before we jumped on. I'm actively fundraising for 4 different things right now. Very different experiences for those things. And one of the conversations that I had yesterday with someone who's on a team with me, I'm like, just tell me what they want me to do. I just got off this whole call and I still don't know what you want me to do. At minimum, tell me what I'm responsible for. And so that's the way I appreciate it. I think a lot of high functioning, busy people appreciate that, just to know what is it that I am responsible for, how, and so we can move forward with that. Because if you don't do that, again, people will make up scenarios. Or they will freeze in indecisiveness. and they won't do anything. Because that's where I was at yesterday. I was like, I don't know what's going on. And I can't get it. And if somebody don't tell me at minimum what I need to do, I ain't going to do nothing. I'm going to be like, well, they don't need me. They seem to have it. The
freeze and indecisiveness is something that I witness a lot. And I also, the other thing that I witness often with boards or committees, I use the phrase, the you should board, where they're advising all the time of how, like, you should do this, you should do that, but not seeing a path for how they can make an impact in that. And the most effective CEO fundraiser that I've ever worked with adopted two things that you've said here today. And I want to highlight those. One is the power of the peer-to-peer leadership in the board. Having a development committee member that's sitting and walking through this path with each board member in the onboarding process, in the leadership process. But the second thing that she did that I loved is that development chair would come up with that path. For example, they had a requirement that you have a table at their gala. But that table could be a number of options, right? They could sell individual tickets to the table. They could buy the table and host their friends.
Yep.
They could sell it to their company and have a corporate sponsorship. And if none of those were possible, they still wanted to have a conversation with you about how you could fill that table. And ultimately, they found a couple of board members would be great hosts. And so hosting some of their donors became their primary role at the event. So that idea of that clear communication, clarity of expectation, coming from a peer, I think is a really powerful thing to call out. And then because our world, we sit in the fundraising event world so often, I think that that table conversation is one I hear all the time. And to think about how a peer could sit with another board member and come up with a plan or a strategy in one of the steps of development, that it doesn't just have to be that they wrote the $5,000 check for the table, but it could be one of many options.
Yes. And I appreciate you saying that, because there are some people that can write the $5,000 check, but they don't stop there. Right. Now, who's going to sit at your table?
Right.
And let's be strategic about who's going to sit at your table.
Yeah.
We don't want, I love your mama, brother, cousin, but I really don't want them sitting at the table if they're not going to participate in the live auction.
Yeah.
And so let's talk about that. And having those clear conversations like that is what should be happening.
Yeah.
And it's strategy, right?
Yeah.
But people don't think like this. We think like this because we're in this business.
Yeah.
Most people don't think like this.
That's right.
And that's where I need folks to understand. The best thing that I did was to have those real relationships with my board. Like, I went to lunch once a month with my board chair, told them the good, the bad, and the ugly. I identified a couple of people that were my board champions. These were the people that had my back as the CEO, that introduced like difficult conversations when they had to happen with the board. I went to lunch with them at least like once a week, almost, like building those really true relationships with my board. And that way, when it comes time to, like, you're putting together, because y'all are events, ladies, so y'all get this. So you're putting together, that gala, and each board member is responsible for getting a live auction, and you're going to lunch with them and you're kicking and but it's strategic.
Yep.
I'm figuring out what your inventory is. Right? It is very strategic. I'm sitting there. I will never forget this. I was at lunch with a board, and I say all my real board members' names, and they're okay with it. His name is Sisto, and we're just talking and going on, and I'm like, okay, well, your auction items, and he's like, well, I don't have anything, and so I have to make note of it. And the next time we go to lunch, he starts talking about, he has this timeshare in Mexico, and hey, you got a timeshare in Mexico? And you just said you didn't have any live auctions. Would you consider putting that in the live auction? And he was like, yeah, I never thought about that.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Oh my God. I had another board member. She had a QVC shopping problem, Ella. She had a whole room of boxes, of QVC boxes in her home. Yeah. And I got invited to her home. We became good friends, and she showed me her QVC closet. The time I needed like to fillers for silent auctions or give back, whatever it is. Like, Ella, can you go to your QVC closet? That's what I need. So I'm not worried about that stuff. But it was because I got to know them.
Yeah.
It's because I had those conversations with them. And I knew what their inventory was and found out what their strengths were.
Yeah.
And it made it a good experience for them because you lean into their strengths. They feel good. You feel good. You're not doing the eye roll.
Yeah.
Everybody's, it's a good thing. That doesn't make it a perfect thing.
No.
You're still going to get board members that may at one point in their tenure only give 50%, but that's okay at that time. Everybody's going through different cycles of life, of being, and it's okay. But at the end of the day, are they good board members who are meeting the minimum expectation if they're going through a lull, and we all go through those lulls?
Mm-hmm.
And are we having those conversations? Like, are you, I remember one time, and this is going to sound, I always tell people, learn from my failures, honey. So I remember we had this great recruitment process. Let's talk about that. We swung the pendulum too far one time because we had been burned so many times. We had started having people do potential interest applications, and then they would go to a lunch with 2 or 3 of us. We would do the interview. Then they had to come to a board meeting to see if they liked us, if we liked them. But then we added on, they had to come volunteer at a program event. That might have been swinging that pendulum a little bit, maybe. Okay.
Yep.
We understood that. We had to find a happy medium. So then we went back and revised the process, and it became more of the potential interest, the interview, come to the board meeting, then we'll make a decision, right?
Yep.
Well, one time I was a Rotarian and my board champions were Rotarians, and we were in the phase where we were ready to do planned giving and really lean into that, an endowment. We had created an endowment and everything. And we had a fellow Rotarian who had the time, because they gave a lot of time to Rotary. They had the talent. They were vice president of the trust department at their bank. They had the ability for the treasurer. We saw how awesome they were over here. We skipped our whole interview process and just brought them onto our board. Well, not good. So they get there, and we have created this culture of where our board is evaluated. They do self-evaluations. Every 3 years, we do collective board evaluations. Couple of meetings, we will end with, let's evaluate this meeting. 3 questions. Do you feel like it was worth your time? Blah, 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 blah. And this person was totally resistant to that. We did the pathways, and each board member, $500. We did that. They were resistant to that. Come to find out, this is a person of a certain age. Our mission was youth development. They didn't even like kids, y'all. Oops. Never skip your recruitment process, no matter how much you think that we thought it was like a cool, oh yes, we got this person. Oh, this is going to be so good. This is going to be great, blah, blah, blah. And we didn't stay true to our own process.
Yeah.
Sometimes we can get desperate. That wasn't out of desperation. I've seen it be out of desperation. Yep. That wasn't out of desperation. That was like, aha, we got one, right? But then some people react out of desperation. Oh, we just need a warm body in this seat.
Yep.
Don't embrace the scarcity mindset. There are people who are good people. Like I start off the top. They're good people who want to give back. We need to be clear about what that give back looks like. And just because they've served on another board does not mean that you suspend your process. Because what I have learned in this industry is a collection of best practices. That's what it is. And the organization, if they served on the board before, they may not be doing the same best practices that you are doing. And so you need to indoctrinate them into your culture. And oftentimes we don't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think the thing that what I'm hearing, and I really want to help underscore for people, is this is a relationship.
Right.
This is a two-way street relationship. And I think we miss that opportunity to see board members as people in full.
Mm-hmm.
And yet we harangue on them for not
Right.
seeing us as people in full
Yes.
with
Yes.
a responsibility and a life and all of these
Mhm.
pieces. And I love what you said about the scarcity mindset, and that really it is about finding a match. And as much as you're dating donors, you're dating board members as
Board
well,
members.
and figuring out what
Yeah.
that looks like.
Oh, we treat our board members hard. We don't see them as our top donors who are giving time, talent, and treasure.
Yeah.
They're giving all three.
Yeah.
But when it comes to recognition of a lot of the organizations I do, when it comes to recognition of the board members, it is not happening.
Mm.
It is,
Interesting.
and it can be for the benefit of the organization too. Let me share. So anybody who came onto my board, they got sworn in by a judge.
Oh.
That
Okay.
elevates the
Yeah.
process.
Yeah.
They got sworn in by a judge. They got sworn in front of their family. They got a certificate. The certificate was framed. That was a Dollar Tree frame, but it's okay. It was framed. They get to put that on their wall in their office. It's not a strategy. When someone comes in their office, they see the certificate. Oh, you serve on that board? That opens up a door for a conversation.
Mm.
Having a judge swear them in, and I say judge, attorney, it's the elevation of the position.
Yep.
I
Having
love
your
that.
family there, it's an elevation of the position. This means something, right?
Yep.
Then at the end of the year, when you're doing your banquet, yes, we did a banquet. It was well worth the investment. We did a banquet. We had board member of the year.
Mm-hmm.
We gave them a little clock if they attended every meeting.
I love that.
You know, and when they joined the annual gift, they got a little plaque. It is a position of honor. And
Mhm.
oftentimes we don't treat it as such.
Yep.
And we get frustrated with board members.
Yeah.
But we are not elevating the position ourselves. And so that's my 2 cents.
We both
I get
just
very
took the
passionate about
knowing
this.
side.
Yes, we both took the deep inhale of truth.
Yes. We're going to take a short break, but when we come back, Sabrina, I want to actually dive a little bit more about when all those things are in place, like what's possible.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
we'll be right back.
Are you ready to engage supporters and grow your base with your own podcast? Then let us introduce you to our partners at the AV department in Portland, Oregon. In addition to delivering exceptional live event audiovisual production and videography, they also have a top-tier production studio and an expert team ready to take your content ideas to the next level. Contact the AV department to schedule a consultation and start bringing your podcast vision to life.
All right, we are back. Welcome back to the Fundraising Elevator. We're here having a conversation about our boards and engaging boards and fundraising events. We're talking with Sabrina Walker Hernandez, and we had a little bit of a microphone shift during the break. So thank you for your patience. When we left, we were talking a little bit about when it all goes right, when all of these pieces come together and you've done the work of onboarding well and helping people understand their path and identifying their role in the fundraising. What's possible when it's all really clicking into place?
Well, we know people like to talk about money, right? So what's possible is that board members can raise a tremendous amount of money. And so I give you the example of a board I currently serve on right now, the Museum of South Texas History. I love this board. It's 24 of us. Everybody is engaged. And in a 12-week period, we raised $424,000
Holy Toledo.
That's
in
amazing.
a 12-week period.
That's amazing.
And what's the secret sauce there? You said we love each other. Everyone's fully engaged. What makes that happen, that you can raise that revenue?
So what makes that happen is, again, recruitment.
Mm-hmm.
You know, who we recommend for this board. Like if I recommend you for this board and one of my friends just came onto this board, Elizabeth, you better not screw up. Call your name.
High pressure.
High pressure. That is one of the keys. When you recommend someone for this board, you are having that conversation with them in advance before you even recommend them for the board. You're saying, this is the standard. This is the people that are in the room. And, you know, I want to submit your name for consideration. And would you be willing for me to submit your name for consideration? And when they say yes, after I've laid down what it is, then is an interview process. And that interview process is with the CEO, the board nomination committee, two or three of the board nomination committees. And we, again, establish what those expectations are. We learn about them. Not only that, when we clearly state why we want you on this board, and it's not about fundraising. It is about what is their influence in the community, what is the next level for the museum, and how they fit into that, right?
Yep.
And so we have that conversation, and then they do come in and do a little tour of the museum, and then we bring their name to the board. Once that is done, there is a certain level of accountability amongst the board members themselves.
That's the magic there.
That is the magic there. And when we see someone that is not, it's very rare that we see someone that is not living to those expectations. And usually it's someone that's new and they're not used to the level of expectation. That's when we activate the board buddy system. And in the executive committee, we'll talk about it and we'll look at each other's executive committee members and say, okay, who wants to be the board buddy to this person?
I love that idea of having a board buddy.
Yeah. And then we do that. And then we do a 12, very clear. The interview process is, let's talk about the money. The interview process is, we expect every member of the board to be a member of the Heritage Associate Program. The Heritage Associate Program membership starts off at $1,500, $2,000, $5,000, $10,000. So that tells you right there, if you're going to be a board member, that's the level you're playing at this point. Some people say it's pay to play. It could be considered that. But we also have a clause in our bylaws that says if someone genuinely cannot be a member of that the executive committee can waive that. But we have never used it. I'm going to be very honest with you. I've been on this board for 6 years. We've never used it. And we just lay out what the expectations are and hold each other accountable to that. If someone hasn't given their gift, right? I honestly have not seen it, but I'm the chair of resource development, haven't seen it, but if it would happen, then I, as the chair, along with the resource development position, we would be having conversations with the person and seeing how we can support them and move forward from there. So 12 weeks is kicked off, and the board is divided up into teams. So let's get to the fun part. We divided up into teams. It's a theme every year. This year was the Kentucky Derby. There's 4 to 5 people on each team. It's a competition between board members. Yeah. So I was secretary. I'm not real good at the Derby stuff. Secretary, I think. We had someone that was Eat My Dust. We had another team. And that's what we do for 12 weeks. We're saying, team Eat My Dust, you're behind, or, this one's in the lead, and we make it fun. And then at the end of that, we have this thing called a ranch gala, which is anybody who donated gets to go to this ranch because we're Texas and we love ranches.
Yeah.
They get to go to this ranch that, they might not otherwise have received a invitation to attend. And then tomorrow night, as a matter of fact, we get together and we congratulate ourselves as board members. Yay, we did it. We made it.
I love that.
As board members. And another board member, they host that in their home. And that gives us opportunity to connect as a team. So that's the way I've seen it work with my board that I ran. We went from 0 individual giving to like $80,000 within a year. If that was our first time ever engaging in that. And then that actually, inspired us to say, yeah, we can do a capital campaign. And we raised $12 million.
Yeah.
So
amazing.
when you are working together as a team and you're not afraid to hold each other accountable. And let me just say this, because I deal with a lot of CEOs. I just had a conversation with someone and they're like, well, the board, they give so much of their time and they're volunteers. And I don't want to ask them for money too. And I'm like, girl, get over it. I don't know if that's a woman thing or what, but we prescribe our desire to be liked and not rock the boat, so we don't talk about what needs to be talked about. And I think that if you are building those relationships with your board members and you're going to lunch, you can have those conversations.
Yeah.
And it's okay.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
So,
what are your thoughts on the opportunity that lies with our corporate partners to recruit leadership? I think a lot of times that has been successful for organizations, and in other ways that has just not necessarily led to somebody who's in relationship in the same way. And I've seen it kind of go both ways. What's your experience with that?
I've seen it go both ways too. I will tell you this, the good of it, and I'll tell you the bad of it, right? So the good of it is, and I'll go back to the museum. We will always have a person from a certain corporation on our board. That is like the tradition of that corporation to support the organization.
Yep.
So that's a good because you have a consistent connection. The bad of that is sometimes you can get someone that is not as committed to the mission as you would desire them to be. But that's what comes in with having those expectations outlined and having that board buddy system if you need to. Because even if they are not as committed to the mission, if you have the expectations and they know that this is a relationship between the organization and the corporation, at minimum, they will do what the expectations are.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
And the 75% of the meeting, here's the fundraising pathway to the $5,000, whatever that minimum expectation are, you will get that. You will get that.
Yep. That makes sense.
On the other side of the house, and I love this one. This is a good that was started out as a bad. So with my organization, in our bylaws, we wrote in corporate teams. So we had 3 corporate teams and a husband and wife team.
Oh, interesting.
Interesting.
Yes. So a corporate team was 2 people who represented that corporation on our board, but they only got 1 vote. They were a corporate team because, as we know, sometimes corporate people or bankers, whatever they are, they can be very busy.
Right.
And so when one person couldn't show up, the other person would show up. But they only have 1 shared vote. What wound up happening for a lot of our corporate teams is both would show up.
Oh.
So now we had 2 people that were actively engaged.
Yeah.
That's what I found to have happened. But that corporate team partnership came about because of a bad situation. We had one person from a corporation, they weren't showing up. So we were like, how can we fix this? We really want representation. So that's where we developed the corporate team partnerships. But what started to happen as we laid out what the expectations are and we changed how we saw board members and really put in some processes, we wound up having 2 very active members representing that one corporation.
A beautiful
Making
end.
lemonade.
Yeah.
Making lemonade.
Well, I love that you said the husband-wife couple or the partner couple, because we actually had a committee whose success was anchored in the fact that they recruited couples for the committee. Their thinking being that as an event committee, you're going to be spending, a couple of months in planning time together. And how do we make this something that couples are doing together so they don't feel like they have to take time away from their spouse or their partner, especially because they're often hosting the table and attending together.
Yes.
And I loved working with that committee because they all were there having fun. There was never that moment of like, oh my gosh, I have another obligation I need to get to. It was like they were there together and having a good time, which I loved.
Yeah, I love husband-wife teams too. And like I said, but on the board, if it's a board, not a committee, they only got 1 vote.
Yep.
But it worked out. It worked out for us. And it was good.
That's a great idea.
All right. I need to turn the conversation a little toward the current environment we're in right now.
Okay.
And the fact that there's so many organizations that are at risk of federal funding going away or have lost federal funding.
Yep.
How do you see boards responding to that? Or where do you think there's opportunity for boards in response to that?
Look, I have said this is such an opportunity to start talking about individual givers and board giving if you have not had that as your foundation, because this is a crisis is what I describe it as. And people respond in crises. So it is okay to share with your board members the good, the bad, and the ugly. And here's the deal. Let me get real life here. The deal is oftentimes when we go into the boardroom and we talk about the budget, we are talking about it. You got your monthly report there and it's all pretty and you got some graphs and, whatever. But if you go in with a simple pie chart, and I did this for an organization, and the board knew their funding came from federal and state, but they didn't know. They didn't get it.
Right.
They were talking like in big language. And I'm like, no, just go in there with a pie chart. So we had a pie chart and show them.
Yeah.
Pie chart. 27% is coming from the state. 23% is coming from federal. 1% is coming from the board. 1%. And the other percentage is coming from, I think they had like a thrift store and a couple of other things.
Earned revenue.
Or earned revenue. Yeah. That's a social enterprise piece. They had that piece.
Awesome.
That's your fundraising.
Yeah.
That is it. So board, what is missing in this?
Yeah.
And they was like, oh. And I said, what environment are we in right now? It's like, well, federal, state getting. Okay. So if 27% and 23% goes away, what does that mean for your organization?
Yeah. Half loss of funding, half organization's gone.
Yeah. Organization is gone.
Yeah.
And then they were open to say, okay, we have to do something different. So what does something different look like? Here are all the different ways that we can fundraise, right? You got your special events. I think every organization needs to have at least one signature event, and not necessarily, it's not about the fundraising. It is about the courting of the people who attend.
Yeah.
Right. That's where the gold is for me. And so that is an avenue. Individual giving is an avenue. I really try to sell the individual giving, because that money is unrestricted.
Yeah.
Yep.
It doesn't go away.
Agree.
I try to sell that. But in order to sell that, you have to be giving yourself, because again, it's disingenuous. It's hypocritical to go out and ask people to give where you are not giving your treasure.
Yeah. Well, we want to ask a little bit about day of event roles for board. Yeah. But before we jump into that, I wanted to ask you about house parties real quick, because you mentioned house parties earlier. And thinking about the crisis we're in and the loss of funds and how quickly this might be occurring for folks, that's an area that I have seen boards jump into action.
Yes.
We believe strongly in the power of gathering people, that gathering people is a way to create unified sort of cohesion and build that sense of belonging, that we have seen boards very quickly mobilize into house parties. You said you have a lot of board members who like to do the house parties.
Yes.
Do you have any recommendation of like, these are things that you must include in your house party if a board is thinking about doing this for the first time?
Oh, yeah. So here's one thing. I'll give you a tip. Sometimes you say the house party and they think it's complicated. It's not. So one of the things that we did before we even threw a house party for the public, let's say, we had a board member throw a house party with our board members.
Oh, good.
Cool. So that we could go into their home and we did the house party. We got to know each other as fellow board members and do all that and went through the process. And so what does the process look like? It was 2 hours. We had the board member who hosted the house party get up and say, why they serve on the board, why this organization is important to them. You have the CEO stand up and say a little bit about some of the programs, not a whole lot and what that means. You have a testimonial. It was a video in this case of a cute kid who said, what the organization meant for them. And then in our case, you have to make a choice here. Are you going to ask for money or not ask for money? In our case, we saw it more as a friend raising. In this crisis, I would say it's fundraising, but we saw it as a friend raising event. And so what we did was, if you're interested in us following up with you to learn more about our organization, sign up. And so that's what they did. They signed up, and then it all became about the follow-up. That the dating process started, that 60% of, and then we got to the ask. In this situation, you're in crises now. I would not do that.
Yeah, I would fundraise.
I would fundraise.
Yeah, you bet.
And I would say this is the good, the bad, and the ugly, and this is where we're at, and this is what could happen to us. Our organization could go away, and so we're asking that you support us and do that. And it needs to be a strong ask. Sometimes if you get someone that's up there that's a little nervousy, they will do a passive ask.
Right.
This is not the time
Nope.
for passive ask. It needs to be a direct ask. What I have found is, again, going back to joining a program, it might be better if you say, we're asking you to join this was a women's shelter. So let's say we're asking you to join our shelter program, and here's the levels you can join at. 1,005, 2,000, 5,000, 10,000, whatever those levels are.
Yep.
So it's a strong ask. Join the circle. Here's the circle amounts and go from there. So if your board is a little bit nervous, just do one for each other.
Yeah,
Right?
I love that.
Yeah. And here's the other thing. I am very competitive and I am very all those things. So when we first did our house party, I thought, I wanted to have 40 people there. What I realized is 10 intimate gathering.
Yeah, that can be
better.
very powerful.
Yeah,
I agree.
You bet.
So much better
Yeah.
than trying to pack the house.
Yep.
10 is a good number. 10 is a good solid number for a house party.
Yep.
So
I've worked with my board. I've given them the path around my event. They've gotten their tables. They've gotten their silent and their live auction. Talk to me about how to set my organization and them up for success the day of the event. How do you, what expectations should I have for them on site at the event? And what can they be doing to support the event on site?
Well, here you go. You asked, so I am going to share. You need to be thinking about that before the event.
Yes.
Right? And so I'm a sound believer in written instructions.
I love
That's
it.
the way I operate. Because on the day of the event, it can get kind of crazy, right? So I like to have those written instructions. Here it is, but being very clear. And there's some board members, their job is to be the smoozer.
Yep.
That is your job. I need you to make everybody, here's our top people, bought the tables, whatever it is. And I need you to make sure you go and greet everybody.
Yep.
Shake their hand, say thank you for being here. That is a role.
You
Yeah.
bet.
That
You
is a
bet.
very
Important.
clear and important role.
Yep.
And then there's some board members that, they're good at sales. And so I want you to be, at this, if you have a mystery box table or whatever it is that you're doing, your enhancer piece, that's what they're going to be in charge of.
Yep.
But be very clear with them. You're in charge of it. You're ultimately responsible for it. So that means if you delegate it to your spouse or your children, you're still ultimately responsible.
Mhm.
That's a clear conversation that needs to happen. Okay.
Yep.
And so being very clear about it, and the greeting and the smooth, that is a role.
Yep.
Agree.
That's
Yeah.
a significant role. And the more you can get people involved in that, the better, because you want people to feel good about the event.
Yep.
And then some board members, I have board members like, you're going to assist the auctioneer.
Yep.
You're going to make the ask. You're going to do this, but everybody knowing what their role is. One of the biggest mistakes that I made this mistake. New board. I know, I should know better. New board. This board member was in charge of like the setting up. We didn't do a silent auction. We did like a mystery box. I want to say some hybrid like that. And they set up everything. They did everything. It was great. And I failed to say on the night of the event, you manned that too.
Oh, shoot.
Oh, shoot. Their spouse was there. They wanted to sit down and have dinner with their spouse. They left the thing unmanned. I think we made like $2,000.
Oh, shoot.
And I was like, oh, Sabrina, you know better. You know better. You have to give people all the details. You cannot
Yep.
make assumption that they know
Yep.
because they don't know.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's probably the biggest mistake that we make. The assumption that they know when they don't. They have no idea.
Clarity
This
is
isn't-
kind.
Clarity is kind. This is intuitive to us. It is not intuitive to
That's
them.
right.
And so you have to lay it all out.
I love that. Well,
Yeah.
the role of the networker, the connector, the welcoming committee, the host, like I think that schmoozing, that act of like outreach and connection is so important. We have an organization that one of my favorite things about them is that they assign one board member to specifically look for the guests on the fringes. Find the guest that's alone, bring them into the conversation, introduce them to another board member or someone else. Find the guest that's, sort of sitting in their seat when everyone else is socializing
Yep.
and mingling, and check in with them, bring them a drink, talk to them.
Yes.
Which I just think is such a generous act of kindness, is to like reach out to those who may not feel like they quite fit yet and help them to belong and feel connected.
Yep.
Well, for some of the folks that are interested in more resources or they want to better understand boards, do you have any recommendations or books or any sort of best practices you would direct them to?
Yes. So, I don't know if I told you this. I think I did. But I'm writing a book, so I ain't going to refer my book yet. The birth book day is June the 30th.
Coming up.
Well, that's soon. Let's
it's
promote
coming up.
that. Well,
So my book is going to be entitled, it's not going to be, I got to start talking about it like it's here, is How to Build a 7-Figure Board, 7 Steps to Leadership and Fundraising Success.
How to
That is
build
gonna
a
be
7-figure board. Woohoo!
7 steps. Yeah, 7 is a lucky number. So there you go. But the person that the person that I followed and really read when I was a CEO sitting in that seat was Kay Sprinkle Grace. I don't know if you've heard of her.
No.
She's written several books. And I actually would buy those books and give them to each of my board members.
Oh, I love that.
That's great.
I love that.
And it talks about like the board. It was like the AAA board, advocacy, ambassadorship, and I can't remember the other A, but it was really good. And she has one also on board and fundraising and the different roles. So I really liked her. Small book, gave it to each of my board members, plain language. I really liked her.
That's great.
Well, I'm excited for your book coming out.
Me too.
I kind of, I try to say we ain't got time to read no more, right? So it's not a huge book. It's a very practical book.
I love that.
That you can.
That's the best.
Well, we're going to take a short break. And when we come back, we're going to step in the fundraising elevator. So we'll be right back.
Ready to take your fundraising to the next level? Need to get unstuck in your event planning? Now's your chance to connect directly with the experts behind the fundraising elevator. Book a one-on-one consulting session with Sam for strategic planning and fundraising strategy, with Kristen for your program and storytelling, or Mary for your registration and data tools. They're here to provide you personalized answers to all your event questions. Don't wait. Raise more at your next fundraising event. Book your session today at elevatenonprofit.com. You can also find the link in the show notes.
Welcome back. We're here with Sabrina Walker Hernandez talking about boards. Dropping all kinds of pearls of wisdom, some harsh truths, some fun truths, how to be in relationship, how to get on the same page and work and row in the same direction. We're all working toward the same mission. Let's work together. Sabrina, we'd like to invite you into the fundraising elevator. We ask all of our guests this question. It's your opportunity to give that one tip, that piece of sage advice to our fundraising superheroes so that they can continue to head up. What would that be?
Build relationships. Build relationships with your board of directors.
Yeah.
It is all about the relationship. You will get to the point where they will say, I don't want to disappoint you.
Oh, wow. That would be powerful.
That would be powerful.
I love it. Well, Sabrina, we're so lucky to have you join us. And if folks want to learn more about building better boards, your organization, how do they find you? And more importantly, how do we find your book?
So you're going to go to buildingbetterboards.com, and that is my website. When the book is written, it will be up there, and I'm going to be putting in some pre-orders too. So that should be coming within the next couple of weeks or so. But that's where I am at. And on LinkedIn, I hang out at my name, Sabrina Walker Hernandez. You can find me there.
Amazing. Well,
love it.
Thank you for your wisdom, your advocacy, all the work you do in the nonprofit sector. And I look forward to seeing you at the Raise conference. I know a number of our listeners will be there as well. So make sure you go introduce yourself to Sabrina if you're at Raise coming up this fall. And thank you for joining us to talk about boards today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
You're well.
The Fundraising Elevator is produced in partnership with Swaim Strategies at the studios of the AV department. The program is produced and directed by Steve Osborne, with audio engineering and original music by Dwayne Anderson, Heidi Christensen, and Adam Breeden. Video production by Shannon Doran. Graphic design by Pendulum Creative Group. Marketing by Lisa Aragon. Support from Mary Elizabeth, Todd Campbell, John Lyles, and Andy Dowsett. And voiceover by Josh Boykin.
Hey y'all, it's Kristen. Before we leave, I want to ask for your help to make the podcast grow. If you enjoyed what you heard today, please like, follow, and subscribe to the Fundraising Elevator. And if you're getting a lot out of the show, share it with a friend. Leave us a review. These things help make sure that the podcast continues heading up. Thanks so much for being here and tuning in.
We've been partnering with Greater Giving for over 20 years as our go-to event auction software. Greater Giving allows us to do our job, planning fundraising events, even better because we can manage guest lists, seating, bid number assignments, and sales all in one place.
That makes it great for our nonprofit partners and their guests. Check out Greater Giving for your next event at greatergiving.com. Link in the show notes.